Good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about Japan and all of the things that associate with Japan for your quiz that you have tomorrow. So, when we look at Japan, we know that Japan is made up of 4 islands. We know that the capital is Tokyo. And so if we look at a map of Japan, we have the Sea of Japan that is to the northwest, that is next to the Koreas. And then we all know that it is all located in the Pacific Ocean. So when we go and we look at your packet of information that you need to study for your quiz, we see what I just said. Okay, Sea of Japan, Pacific Ocean, the capital is Tokyo. So when we look at Japan, we remember that Japan is an island nation on the far eastern edge of East Asia. I told you that tomorrow your geography part is fill in the blank. That's a question. Japan is a blank nation on the far eastern edge of eastern blank. Okay? We know that it has a climate that is affected by ocean currents. We know that there are ocean currents from the north that bring cool air to the northern part of Japan. And there is tropical moisture from the south that brings warm air to the southern part of Japan. You're not tested over specifically the currents of Japan, but we talked about the Japan current coming from the south brings warm water to the southern and eastern coast of Japan, while the Oceania current coming from the north cools the northern coast. The warmer parts of the country are arable to have longer growing season for farmers, while those living in the cooler north rely on fishing. Japan experiences monsoon rains and even tropical hurricanes. In the Atlantic Ocean, it's called a hurricane. In the Pacific and Indian Ocean, it's called a typhoon, but it is the same thing. When we turn the page, we remember and we see from the things that we've discussed that 80% of the country of Japan is covered with mountains. This leaves a small percentage of the farms suitable for farming. The Japanese have created farmlands out of these mountains by building terraces, putting in irrigation channels, and using different fertilizers and farming techniques. Even so, Japan has to import food for its growing population. Okay, so if 80% of the land is not arable, you cannot grow on it, and there's a large population, they're going to have to get food by importing the food from other countries. There are many volcanoes in Japan. These volcanoes are often the cause of earthquakes. Japan has more earthquakes every year than any other place in the world. That last part about the earthquakes, that is definitely on your test. Here's another test question. How have the farmers of Japan been able to raise crops in land that is very mountainous? They have built farming terraces along the mountain slopes. Religions is also considered part of geography, and there are 2 religions that we talked about. The first religion is Buddhism. Buddhism began in India. It was founded by Siddhartha Gautama in 500 BC. I asked you how long ago that was. That was 2,500 years ago. Okay? The Buddha believed that people could find peace if they could reject 2 things that you need to know these blanks on: greed and desires. If they got rid of the greed and desires, then they could achieve the end of reincarnation, which is called nirvana. The 4 things that they have to do in Buddhism that they believe are called the 4 Noble Truths. You do not have to know each one for your test. You just have to know what the 4 Noble Truths are about. Okay? But it is all about rejecting greed and desires. Then we have Shintoism. Shintoism is the earliest religion of Japan. It means the way of the gods. Shintoism is all about the virtue of cleanliness and cleaning your body, your mind, your spirit of evil. Shintos believe in kami. These are the divine spirits of your ancestors. They believe that when someone dies, their soul goes and lives in nature. And so oftentimes in Japan, people that are Shinto have different rock gardens to pray to their ancestors for. The last part of geography is the chart. The literacy rate. Literacy rate, we know, is the percent of people who can read or write. Okay? The literacy rate in Japan is 99%. The GDP per capita, that means per person, is 34,000. All right? So everything that I've gone over so far is geography. there are 10 fill-in-the-blank questions about geography. The next part is government. There are 5 multiple-choice questions on government, and a lot of them deal with the things that we see here. Knowing that Japan has a constitutional monarchy, a monarchy in which powers of the ruler are restricted to those granted under the Constitution. There is an emperor. He is the head of state. Okay? He is symbolic. Okay? He does not have real power. And that changed at the end of World War II when the new Constitution stripped that power. There is a 2-house legislature, a bicameral legislature that has the power. It's elected by the people, and it is called the Japanese Diet. Because the Diet is elected by the people, this is an example of a democratic government system. So even though it's a constitutional monarchy, it is a democratic system. So when we look at the government of Japan, there's specific things that you need to know. You do not have to know these certain things, the House of Representatives and the House of Councilors. You just need to know that it is bicameral and that it is called the Diet. Okay? There's also the executive branch and the judicial branch. So again, when we look at Japan, it's a constitutional monarchy. It is a democracy. It's parliamentary. One unique thing about Japan compared to the rest of the world is that you have to be 20 years old to be able to vote. Most places it's 18. Okay? So the Prime Minister is chosen by the Parliament with the most members. And we know that's how a parliamentary system works. Okay? So that's all for government. Okay? And again, that was multiple choice. The next part is economics. Test question right here. Japan has one of the most technologically advanced economies in the world. Okay? There are 7 matching economic questions. I give you the word, and you have to fill it in where it goes. Okay? The Japanese people traditionally have a strong work ethic. Okay? They make more money. Ha ha ha. You should try it. Good work ethic. Japan spends, that's why you should like my video right there. Alright, that shout out goes out to Xavier. Alright, so Japan spends very little on maintaining a military. This is a restriction put in place at the end of World War II. Alright? I'll skip down. We know that Japan must import oil and food. One of Japan's largest industries is the fishing industry. And this makes sense because they're an island. Okay? Japan's currency, it's not on your test, but it's a yen. Okay? This is the same thing we just went over. But we know Japan has the most technologically advanced economies in the world. There's little farmland, few natural resources. They must import raw materials and food. Okay? We talked about what fertile is, and that 99% of Japanese complete high school. Now to the history. There are 3 multiple choice questions on the history. Okay? Japan lost World War II. It was a member of the Axis powers with Germany and Italy. When it lost the war, and after the United States dropped the 2 atomic bombs on Japan, the U.S. occupied Japan after it surrendered the war. We occupied the country for 7 years, 1945 to 1952. Japan once had a powerful military, and the U.S. wanted that to change. We did not want them to be so powerful as they once were when they took over most of the Pacific. So, the United States put General Douglas MacArthur of putting Japan back on its feet in a way that it would not pose a military threat. He developed a constitution. He helped write Japan's new constitution. It's called the MacArthur Constitution. It took away the power of the emperor and created a constitutional monarchy. We know the Japanese Diet is Japan's legislature. The Bill of Rights grants freedoms to citizens. And then reparations are money given to Japan, or money that Japan had to pay because of what they did in World War II. Again, 3 multiple choice questions. Okay? I need for you to study tonight. Watch this video. Look at your packet. Get somebody to ask you questions. Okay? It's very important that we master this. Good luck.